Tonight's episode is brought to you by Brian Garcia at Skindless Ink Tattoo Studio in Denton, Texas. If you're looking for clean work, custom designs, black and gray realism, script, memorial pieces, or just an artist who actually takes pride in his craft, Brian's your guy. Whether it's your first tattoo or your next masterpiece, he'll make sure you walk out with something you're proud to wear for life. Located at 722 Fort Worth Drive in Denton, walk-ins are welcome, or book your appointment today at 940-383-0337. Check out his work on Instagram at Skindless Ink. Trust me, don't gamble with bad tattoos. Go see Brian Garcia at Skindless Ink. Hey y'all, welcome back to She Loved Me Best in Secret. I'm your host, Ryder Knox. And first off, thank y'all for coming back because, whew, tonight gets complicated. Like, you know this ain't gonna end well, but you can't stop watching anyway complicated. So all right, if you drink beer, go ahead and crack one open. Honestly, grab whatever emotionally prepares you for terrible decisions wrapped in chemistry and red flags dressed up like soulmates. Oh, buddy. Connor is about to start confusing peace with passion, attention with love, and chaos with destiny. And if you've ever been in one of those relationships where somebody somehow became your favorite part of the day, you already know how dangerous that can get. Ladies, if your wine glass is empty, you may want to pause this and go handle that. Because tonight, boundaries disappear. People start lying easier than they sleep. And somewhere between football games, late night phone calls, and stolen moments, Connor stops flirting with disaster and starts falling in love with it. So settle in, because chapter 5, this one's gonna leave a mark. And hey, before we get going, anybody else out there wondering if the real life Grace Bennett is listening? Well, I can neither confirm nor deny that. But let's just say, I may or may not have received a very polite little message asking me to, how should I put this? Please stop. And honestly, fair, I probably would have asked me to stop too. But as they say, the show must go on. And the crazy part, we're not even close to the part where things really go off the rails yet, not even the good stuff. Because what Connor doesn't know yet is that when love starts being built in secret, chaos usually isn't far behind. So, let's get into it. There are some affairs that stay exactly where people pretend they belong. Cheap hotel rooms, deleted messages, excuses that smell like guilt and cologne. That's what people think an affair is. Something physical, something reckless, something you can blame on weakness and walk away from once the damage gets too loud. But Grace and Connor, they weren't just that. And maybe that was the problem, because the body can lie. The heart is much harder to manage. At first, it was simple. Messages before school, a joke in the middle of the day, a voice note after their spouses had gone to sleep, then lunch calls, then late night television watched together from separate houses, both of them pretending that distance made it innocent. They watched shows together, read books together, talked history like two nerds hiding inside a scandal. Normandy, medieval England, King Henry, wars, kings, betrayals. It's funny now looking back. They were studying history while creating the kind of story people later whisper about. Grace became the part of Connor's day he waited for. And that's where things got dangerous. Not when they touched. Not when they crossed the first line. The danger came when she started knowing him. Really knowing him. She knew how to calm him down before he even admitted he was spiraling. She knew when to soften her voice, when to challenge him, when to stare at him from across a room and make the noise in his head go quiet. Connor used to say Grace could lower his blood pressure with one sentence. That sounds romantic until you realize what it really means. She became regulation. She became relief. She became the drug and the detox at the same time. And once a man starts needing someone to feel normal, he'll destroy almost anything to keep them close. Serena didn't come to Connor's games. Grace did. Quietly. Secretly. She'd sit in some corner where nobody would notice her and text him during warm-ups. You look focused today. Your boys are responding to you. You're good at this, Connor. Do you know what that does to a man who feels invisible at home? It doesn't just flatter him, it resurrects him. At night, Connor would sit at his kitchen table making things Grace could use in her classroom the next day. She'd help him cut costs, talk through bills, give advice on insurance, coach him before big meetings. She didn't just want his body. She entered the machinery of his life. She found the places where he felt unsupported and made herself useful. That is how emotional affairs become dangerous. Not because someone says, "I want you," but because someone says, "I see you." And Connor was starving to be seen. By October, Grace handed him 2 tickets to the Red River Showdown, Texas, Oklahoma, the Cotton Bowl. More than a football game if you're from Texas. It's a state fair wrapped around a fist fight. Burnt orange on one side, crimson on the other. Fried food, beer, sweat, pride, and 100,000 people acting like a football score might determine the moral direction of the country. Connor had never been. Grace knew that. Of course she knew that. Her husband didn't want to go, so she asked Connor, and Connor said yes. Because Connor had stopped asking himself what things meant. He only asked how close they would bring him to Grace. He brought Walker as cover. Walker was younger, still green in the ways Connor no longer was. The kind of guy who believed people were mostly honest because nobody had taught him otherwise yet. They drank on the train, laughed too loud, moved through the state fair like everybody else. But Connor wasn't really there for the game, not fully. Grace texted. Grace, text message. Gate 5, beer tent. I miss you. That was all it took. 5 words. And Connor's whole body changed direction. He saw her before she saw him. Or maybe that's not true. Maybe Grace always saw him first. Maybe that was part of her power. She stood in the middle of all that noise like chaos had dressed itself beautifully and learned how to smile. Boots, skirt, hair catching sunlight. Those blue eyes sharp enough to cut through a crowd. And when she saw Connor, her face changed. Not much, just enough to ruin him. Grace said, "Well, look who finally decided to show up." Connor said, "Traffic." Grace sighed. You're late every time. At this point, I think it's a personality trait." Connor said, "You always this welcoming?" Grace said, "Only when I've been waiting. There are pauses people notice, even innocent people." Walker noticed. Walker said, "Hold on, y'all know each other know each other?" Grace said, "Something like that." Connor said, "Something like that?" Grace said, "When he likes to grace me with his presence." Connor said, "I see what you did there." Walker shyly said, "Oh, so this is how y'all talk to each other?" Nobody answered, because the answer was standing right there between them. Thick, obvious, reckless. Grace invited Walker and his wife to her Halloween party. She gave him her number. Connor didn't like it. But jealousy is hard to explain when you have no legal right to feel it. So he smiled. It's not that he cared about Walker going. He just didn't want to mix these two worlds. So he pretended, swallowed it. That's what Connor had become good at, swallowing things that were slowly poisoning him. Grace had some twisted idea that our worlds should mix. She had this idea that Connor should become friends with Graham and she should be friends with Serena. She would say hiding in plain sight is better. 10 minutes into the second half, Grace texted again. "There's a custodial closet by the bathrooms. Doors cracked." Connor stared at that message while Texas was driving down the field. A normal man stays in his seat. A decent man deletes the text. A faithful man never receives it in the first place. Connor was none of those men anymore. He followed the hallway, past the bathrooms, past the noise, past every warning sign God, guilt, and common sense had left blinking in front of him. The door was cracked. Grace pulled him inside by the wrist. The room smelled like bleach, concrete, and consequence. She looked up at him like he was exactly who she had wanted all day. And Connor believed her. That was always the tragedy. Not that Grace lied, but that Connor needed her truth so badly he stopped checking for the lie. Connor barely had time to think before Grace was against him, her arms circling his shoulders as he lifted her instinctively, like muscle memory had already claimed her, feeling her skin as he grasped tightly, pulling her up and into him. She laughed softly against his mouth, that dangerous kind of laugh that always felt like permission and trouble wrapped together. She had come dressed like she knew exactly what this day would become. Boots, skirt, never any panties, effortless confidence, the kind that made chaos feel intentional. The little room felt impossibly small, too warm, too close, too risky. The air smelled faintly of bleach and concrete, forgotten supplies stacked carelessly around them, paint cans lining the walls like silent witnesses to something they were never meant to see. Connor's mind betrayed him. What if someone walked in? What if somebody knocked? What if... Grace pulled back just enough to look at him, reading him the way she always somehow could. Focus, she whispered, her fingers brushing his jaw, steadying him. Only this. And somehow, the noise in his head quieted. She said, look at my eyes, be here with me, because that was her gift. Or maybe her power. She had a way of making the rest of the world disappear. For a few reckless moments, nothing outside that room seemed to exist. Not the stadium, not the crowd, not the lives waiting for them outside the door. Connor pushed his face into her neck, moving up and down, as he felt her nails pushing deep into his back. He listened to her breathing as they started to move faster. She kept saying his name over and over. She would pull back and look in his eyes, repeating for him to come with her at the same time. Just adrenaline. Just passion, pure desire, just the terrifying comfort of feeling wanted. Connor held on to her like letting go might somehow wake him up, and then her whole body tensed up and she squeezed too, as if letting him go she would never have him again, her whole mouth over his ear, and like that, everything in both of them relaxed. Grace adjusted her hair in the small mirror above the sink, calm in a way Connor never was after moments like this. Like she hadn't just rearranged the chemistry of his entire day. Then she turned back toward him with that smile, the one that always felt dangerous. This should be our thing, she said softly. Every football stadium we ever go to. She paused, teasing the sentence like she already knew it would stay with him. A little us. Connor just stared at her, because she said things like forever so casually. And he never quite knew if she meant them, or if she simply knew he needed to believe she did. He looked at her and said, our thing. You planning this, whatever this is, to last? She came in close to Connor, grabbed his shirt, looked up at him to kiss him, and whispered, you'll never know a day without me, I promise. What happened in that little room was not love, but it was not nothing. That's the part people don't understand. Sin can still feel tender. Destruction can still hold your face like it cares about you. Grace had a way of making ruin feel chosen. Like Connor wasn't falling apart. Like he was finally being wanted correctly. And when it was over, she fixed her hair in the small mirror above the utility sink and smiled like they hadn't just stepped over another line they could never uncross. Then she touched his face, softly. Almost lovingly. It came time to say bye. Grace looked at Connor and said, until next time, Pumpkin. Pumpkin. Ridiculous, childish, dangerous, because pet names are ownership dressed up as affection, and Connor let her name him. That night, when he returned to the stands, Walker handed him a beer. Where'd you go? Bathroom line. The lie came easy. That should have scared him. It didn't. Connor looked across the stadium, but Grace was already gone. And somewhere between the Cotton Bowl and the drive home, he understood the truth. He wasn't flirting with disaster anymore. He was in love with it. But love didn't make him happy. It made him hungry. And hunger like that never stays satisfied for long. Just as Connor turned onto his street, his phone started blowing up. First Walker, then Grace. Walker! Hey man, who is this Graham guy? He's accusing me of cheating with his wife today? When I got home, Graham was going crazy, drinking, stalking me. He saw Walker called me about the Halloween party. Now he thinks I was at the game with Walker. He's trying to figure out who he is. Connor didn't know which lie to manage first. That's the thing about deception. At first, you think you're controlling it. Then one day, it becomes a room full of fires and you're standing there with a paper cup of water. He texted Walker. Sounds like they have issues. I just blocked them. Cowardly, clean, effective. Then Connor pulled into his driveway and his stomach dropped. Because across the street, parked under the dim wash of a streetlight, was Grace, waiting for him. And that's when Connor realized something. The affair had followed him home.
Wow, Pops. Chapter 5 did not hold back. Your boy Connor? Buddy, my man went from, I'm just trying to figure my life out, to Olympic-level bad decisions real quick. And can we talk about the fact that this man skipped a Texas-Oklahoma game? Like, do y'all understand how serious that is in Texas? People treat the Red River Showdown like it's church mixed with family trauma. There are grown men who plan their entire emotional calendar around that football game. Weddings, birth of a child. And Connor said, you know what sounds better than the fourth quarter? Custodial closet with some hot blonde wearing no... No, but for real. Chapter 5? Whew. That one had some feelings, some red flags, some, brother, what are we doing here? And somehow, I got a feeling things are only about to get messier. Because let me tell y'all something. When somebody becomes your favorite part of the day, that's when life starts getting dangerous. Especially when secrecy starts feeling normal. But hey, thank y'all seriously for hanging out with us and listening to She Loved Me Best in secret. The support y'all have shown this podcast, this story, and Sound Off Live means way more than you know. Seriously, y'all showing up, listening, sharing episodes, laughing with us, crying with us, yelling at Connor through your speakers, we appreciate every single one of y'all. And trust me, you are going to want to be here for what's coming next because, let's just say, Connor ain't even close to rock bottom yet. And Grace is just out here running a summer camp on how to get your man to skip big football games. So do us a favor. If you enjoyed the episode, share it. Send it to your friend who always falls for emotionally unavailable people. Send it to the friend who says, I can fix him. No, ma'am. No, you cannot. And make sure y'all hit us up and follow Sound Off Live everywhere. Instagram, TikTok, X, YouTube. Follow us. Support the movement. Check out the podcasts, clips, stories. And while you're at it, go grab yourself a shirt. We got some clean ones. World Cup stuff, funny stuff, patriotic stuff. Something for everybody. And every bit of support helps us keep building this thing. From all of us here at Sound Off Live, thank you for believing in what we're building. We love y'all. Take care of yourselves. And for the love of God, don't make Connor-level decisions this week. We'll see y'all next episode.